My phone screen froze on a number that couldn't be right. $87.23. I blinked, refreshed the banking app again. Same number. IT didn't make sense. Just yesterday, I had over $14,000 in that account. My hand was shaking when I turned toward my sister Sarah, sprawled on my parents' couch like she owned the place, glass of rose in one hand, her face lit by the TV glow. From the kitchen, her husband Seth leaned against the fridge, beer in hand, a shit-eating grin glued to his face. "Relax, man," he said, like I'd dropped a plate of nachos, not discovered financial sabotage. "We needed it more than you did." My mouth opened, then closed as I glanced at Mom, seated across the room with her knitting needles clacking calmly like this wasn't a goddamn felony happening in slow motion. "Mom," I said, "did you know about this?" She sighed a long, drawn-out exhale, like I'd just accused her of burning Thanksgiving dinner. "Sweetheart, you're always so sensitive. You got a stable job, no kids, no mortgage. You're fine. So that justifies stealing from me?" "Language," Dad muttered from his recliner without looking up from his phone. I turned to Sarah. "How did you even get in?" She didn't even blink. "You left your info logged in on the family iMac. Maybe next time don't walk away from the screen." I couldn't breathe. My chest was hot, like my body was preparing for a sprint I hadn't agreed to take. "You're making this a bigger deal than it needs to be," Seth said, sipping his beer. "We used it to pay rent. Groceries. We're trying to stay afloat." "You didn't ask." "We didn't think we had to," Sarah said sharply. "You've been helping for years. What's the difference if it comes through you or from you?" I stood slowly, grabbed my coat. Not a single person moved to stop me. No apology. No explanation. No shame. "You're leaving already?" Mom asked. "Yup," I said, zipping up. "But don't worry. I'll be in touch." Sarah rolled her eyes. "Don't be so dramatic. We needed it more than you. That's just facts." My hand paused on the doorknob. "I'll look back once. Then you won't mind what's coming next." Outside, the cold air slapped my face, but it felt better than that living room ever had. I was halfway to my car when I heard someone behind me. "You okay?" It was my cousin Jen, her breath fogging the air. I didn't answer right away. "I heard what Sarah said," she said. "That wasn't right." Still nothing, because if I spoke, I might scream, might cry, might break. Thing is, it wasn't the first time. For years, I was the responsible one. The dependable one. The one with the stable income, no dependents, and apparently, no right to boundaries. They started small. Sarah's phone bill once. Then Seth lost his job. Needed help just for the month. Then came the gifts for their kids' birthdays that I somehow ended up paying for, even when I hadn't agreed to it. Every time I hesitated, Mom would cut in with her soft knife tone. "You're lucky, Mason. God gave you an easier life so you could help." Translation: God gave us a sun-shaped ATM. They never offered repayment. Never even said thank you. Just expected. I've been laid off once for 6 months. Lived off rice and eggs. They didn't help me then. Hell, they didn't even call that I skipped vacations 3 years in a row to rebuild that savings account. They just drained like it was loose change. Last week, Sarah had texted, "You still coming to the family reunion?" "Yeah," I said. "Should I bring anything?" She replied, "Just bring yourself." In your card, I thought it was a joke. It wasn't. 2 days after the incident, Sarah started calling. I ignored the first 4. Picked up the 5th. "Mason," she said, her voice shaky. "We have a problem." I waited. "The power company came today. We're, behind on the bill. Like really behind. And they're threatening to shut it off if we don't pay by Monday. So," she paused. "So we need your help." I laughed, short and bitter. "You already drained my savings, Sarah. Now you're asking for more." "It wasn't just for us," she snapped. "We helped Mom and Dad, too. Dad's car broke down, remember? You never told me. Because you always say no unless it's an emergency." I said nothing. "You've always helped," she continued, almost pleading now. "That's what you're for, right?" There was again, "That's what you're for." That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed replaying 5 years of silent sacrifice. The transfers, the guilt trips, the gaslighting. They never saw me as a brother. Just a bank account with legs. I didn't answer her calls after that. Not Sarah's, not Mom's, not Seth's. Not even a text that followed. "Seth, just call her, man. She's freaking out. Mom, Mason, we need to talk. Please don't make this worse. They made it worse that I was just finally reacting. 3 days after the power bill sob story, Mom left a voicemail. We're planning a small family dinner. Just us. Come over tonight, though we need to talk. She didn't ask how I was, didn't mention the money. Didn't even pretend to care. But I went, because part of me still hoped they'd say sorry. That they'd sit me down and own up to the betrayal. Instead, I walked into the same house where my savings had vanished, and nothing had changed. Dad was flipping through mail like it was any other Thursday. Mom was clinking plates in the kitchen with a little too much force. Sarah stood by the window, arms crossed. Seth lounged at the end of the dining table, with a smirk on his face like he was waiting for kickoff. Well, look who actually showed up, Sarah muttered. I dropped my bag near the door and sat down without a word. Good, Seth said. Maybe we can stop pretending you were robbed. I stared him down. I was robbed. The tension shifted, like the air itself clenched. Mom cleared her throat. Mason, we know you're upset, but we were struggling. We didn't have any other options. Sarah and Seth were drowning, Dad added. You've always been the stable one. We knew we could count on you. You didn't ask, I said, my voice like frost on glass. You took. That's not family. That's theft. Sarah rolled her eyes so hard I thought she might sprain something. God, stop being so dramatic. We didn't spend it on crap. We used it where it mattered. No. I reached into my bag and slapped a printed spreadsheet on the table. Cell phone records, bank statements, transaction logs. Let's talk about the $1,072 spent at Sephora, I said, flipping to the first tab. Or the $900 on DoorDash. Or the $2,300 that went towards Seth's car note. Seth's face changed. You went through our accounts. Oh, I did more than that. I opened my laptop and spun it toward them. The screen glowed with a color-coded breakdown, dates, amounts, vendors. Every charge, every stolen dollar. Tracked, documented, compiled. I filed a fraud report, I said. And guess what? They got back to me. Sarah's eyes widened. You didn't. I did. You called the police? She shrieked. I looked at Mom. Still think this is just a family disagreement. This is insane, Dad barked. You want to put your own sister in jail. You put yourselves there, I snapped. Then came a knock. 3 hard pounds on the door. Not polite. Not hesitant. Boom, boom, boom. Sarah went pale. Seth shot to his feet. Mom gasped. Mason, what did you do? Dad froze. Another voice boomed from behind the door. Financial Crimes Division. Open up. Seth turned to me, eyes wide, voice low. Tell me you're not serious. I walked to the door. Dead serious. I opened it. 3 agents stepped in. Black jackets, bold white letters across the back. U.S. Financial Crimes Division. One had a clipboard, another a tablet. The third scanned the room with professional disinterest. You Mason Carver? The clipboard one asked. I nodded. Thank you for your cooperation. We'll take it from here. Sarah dropped in her chair like her knees gave out. Mom clutched the table. Dad finally looked up from the mail. Seth looked ready to bolt. Another agent turned toward the family. You're listed as parties of interest in an ongoing investigation into identity theft and financial fraud. He's our son. Mom shouted. You can't arrest family. The agent didn't flinch. Family ties don't make financial crimes legal, ma'am. Sarah stammered. We didn't steal. We had a right. He always helped. Thinking you're entitled to someone's money doesn't make it yours, the agent said. They Saturday silent, shaken, cornered. And for the first time in my life, no one interrupted me. No one talked over me. No one laughed in my face. Mom looked up at me, tears brimming. Mason, please. We didn't mean to hurt you. We were just desperate. You've always been the strong one. The only one we could count on. I looked her straight in the eyes. You don't get to cry now. She covered her mouth that Sarah's lips moved, but no sound came out. Seth just sat, finally realizing this wasn't a joke anymore. You want to talk about what family means? I said, stepping forward. It's trust. It's respect. It's asking, not assuming. It's not bleeding someone dry and calling it love. They said nothing. I grabbed my bag, nodded at the agent. I'll be outside. This time, no one followed me. No Sarah screaming, how could you? No Mom begging me to understand. Just the night air and the sound of tires crunching behind me as the agents escorted them out one by one. That night, I didn't go home. I drove aimlessly past late-night diners and shuttered gas stations, the city lights blurring into long streaks through my windshield. My phone buzzed nonstop on the passenger seat. Voicemails, texts, missed calls. All of them from them. But I didn't answer. That I wasn't interested in apologies written like excuses. I wasn't ready to hear my name said through gritted teeth, dipped in guilt and manipulation. Around midnight, I pulled into the driveway of the only place that had ever felt like a home, my grandmother's old house. She passed a few years back, but I still had the key. She used to say, "If they ever turn on you, Mason, you come here. This house will always open for you." That night it did. I slept for 11 hours straight, something I hadn't done in years. No buzzing phone, and tension curled in my chest like a fist. Just silence. Real, uninterrupted peace. But peace doesn't last long. Not when your family sees you as a source, not a person. The first email came that afternoon. From Dad. "This has gone too far that you've humiliated the entire family. What happened to loyalty?" I didn't reply. Then Sarah texted, "I hope you're happy that they're freezing our accounts. Seth's being investigated at work. You ruined our lives over a couple of payments." A couple of payments? Try 5 years of silent sacrifice. Then came the voicemail from Mom. Her voice cracked halfway through. "You didn't have to do it this way. We could have handled it like a family. Mason, sweetheart, please. They're talking about charges. We might lose the house." That line echoed in my head like a siren. We might lose the house. And for the first time since this all began, I wasn't angry. I wasn't bitter. I just didn't care. Because I lost a home the moment they decided I was worth more as a bank account than a son. 2 days passed. Then came a message from someone unexpected. My stepbrother, Jonah. We'd barely spoken in years, maybe 5 words at birthdays and cookouts. But his message was simple. "Just so you know," Sarah's trying to spin the story. "Says you knew about the transfers. That you approved them. There's a lawyer involved. Watch your back." I laughed out loud. Even now, even after federal agents showed up at their door, Sarah was still trying to rewrite the script. That night, I called my lawyer. "Send everything," I said. "We're not just pressing charges. I want a restraining order." He didn't flinch. "You'll get it." But not every message was venom. A week later, I got a short email from someone I hadn't heard from in a decade. Kelly, Seth's sister. "I know we haven't spoken in years, but I just wanted to say, you were right. About all of it. About how they treat you. About how toxic it's gotten. I used to think you were just cold. Now I think you were brave. Thank you for standing up, for showing the rest of us how." Kelly, I stared at her message for a long time. Brave. No one in my family had ever called me that. Then one morning my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost declined. Something told me not to. "Hello." The voice on the other end was small. Strained, familiar. "Mason," she said. "It's Sarah." I said nothing. She filled the silence like she always did. "I know I messed up, okay? I didn't think it would go this far. Seth's been suspended. Mom won't stop crying. Dad won't even talk to me. And you," she paused, "you always had the power to ruin everything. And you finally did." Still, I didn't speak. "Can you just stop now?" she said, her voice cracking. "Drop the charges. Please. I'll do anything. Just make it stop." I almost felt something. Almost. But then I remembered her laughing on the couch the night it all began, sipping wine while my savings disappeared. "We needed it more than you." I smiled bitterly. "No," I said. "You made this mess. You live in it." Then I hung up. That night, I cooked myself dinner in silence. Played a playlist I hadn't touched since college. Sat on the porch of my grandmother's house with a cup of coffee and just existed. And for the first time since I was a teenager, no one asked me for money. No one guilt-tripped me. No one made me feel like I was only valuable if I was giving something. I wasn't their wallet anymore. I was just me. And for the first time, me was enough. A few weeks passed. I changed my number, moved to a new city. Quiet little apartment in Wisconsin, not too far, but far enough. No more surprise visits, and just dropping by from Sarah. No notes on my door asking for just a little help. I told my boss everything once it started hitting the news. He nodded, asked one question. "You good?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "You want a promotion?" I said, Hell yes. Turns out, when you're not secretly juggling your sister's car payment, your mom's overdue utilities, and your brother-in-law's bad gambling habits, you perform better at work. I breathed easier. I ate better. I slept. But peace has a funny way of drawing chaos to it. About a month after I moved, my attorney received an email. It was from Sarah's lawyer, one of those types with a smiling headshot on every bench ad in her town. The email said they were interested in resolving the matter privately. No apology. No remorse. Just damage control. I told my lawyer 2 words: let it burn. Then came Mom's letter. 10 handwritten pages in blue ink, the kind she used to write grocery lists with. The handwriting trembled in places, but not enough to mask the tone. Controlled. Manipulative, familiar. Things got out of hand. We never meant to hurt you. We assumed you'd always be there. That's what good sons do. That last line hit harder than anything. Not we were wrong. Not you didn't deserve this. Just, you were supposed to stay quiet. And keep giving. I folded the letter, didn't respond. Not out of anger, but because I finally understood they never saw me as family. Just a resource they were born entitled to. I started running in the mornings again. Bought a bike. Stopped skipping lunch to help cover bills I didn't rack up. I even signed up for language class, Spanish, because why not? And every week, new updates came in from my lawyer. Sarah and Seth were now under formal investigation. Seth had lost his job. Sarah's accounts were frozen. Mom was trying to refinance the house, but the banks weren't biting with active fraud charges in her name. Dad blamed outside influence. Told a mutual cousin that someone turned Mason against the family. Like I hadn't been there when they drained me. Like it hadn't been his voice that told me family means sharing. Sure, they share my money. They just never share the weight. Then came something I didn't expect. One morning, I opened my mailbox and found a small white envelope. No return address. Inside, a check for $1,200. And a note. I left him. You were right. I was scared, but watching what you did gave me the courage to walk away too. This is for the things you paid for. Ellie's tablet, the rent, the clothes. I know Seth never thanked you, but I am. Kelly, I read it twice. Then I cried. Not from pain. Not from anger. But because for the first time, someone in that family saw me. Not as a wallet. Not as a scapegoat. Not as a resource. Just as a person. People ask me sometimes, do you regret it? No. I regret waiting so long. I regret the years of silent self-sacrifice. The canceled vacations. The skipped meals. The time I lived under a tight budget while they went to wine tastings and posted #family vibes from a rental cabin I unknowingly paid for. I regret every second I stayed small so they could feel big. But standing up? Lighting the match? Never. I thought was done. Charges were filed. My lawyer had everything he needed. I'd blocked the numbers, moved states, started over. But parasites don't give up easy when they've lost their host. It started with a knock. Not at my door. At my job. My office manager called me in. There's someone here. Says she's your sister? I froze. Send her away, I said without thinking. I already did, she replied. Just wanted to give you a heads up. Apparently, Sarah had driven 2 hours, walked in with a stack of papers, and asked for 5 minutes with Mason to set things right. But she wasn't there to apologize. She was there to deliver a lie. The next day, my lawyer forwarded me a message from Sarah's attorney. Attached was a statement, claiming that the funds had been transferred with my full consent and that I had verbally authorized multiple transactions. They had screenshots of texts, supposedly from me, except I never sent them, and I never called Sarah sis in a single text in my life. The timestamps were all wrong. The grammar wasn't mine. The tone was off. I knew what they were trying to do. Create enough doubt to force a settlement. To muddy the waters just enough to say, let's both walk away. But they forgot who they were dealing with. I had receipts, bank statements, device logins, IP records, voice recordings, video from the night it all went down. I forwarded it all back through my lawyer, along with a single instruction. I'm not walking away. I'm walking through. If Sarah wanted to burn down the forest to hide her tracks, I was happy to hand her the match. 3 weeks later, the court issued a restraining order. Seth and Sarah were both barred from contacting me. Financial restitution was set for $1,730. They didn't contest it because they couldn't. They knew I had them pinned to the wall. My attorney said it best. You didn't just win. You ended them. I like to say that after all this, they changed. That Seth got therapy. That Sarah found God. That mom sat in a rocking chair somewhere and wrote me a letter owning it all. But that's not what happened. Seth ghosted his own kids. Sarah tried to move back in with mom and dad, who were now on the verge of losing their home. Dad still blamed the system. Mom sent one final message through a cousin. He won't even talk to his own mother. Heartless. Funny how it's heartless to stop giving, but never heartless to keep taking. People still ask me, do you ever miss them? I miss the idea of family, not the reality I had. I miss what I should have had. Sunday dinners with laughter. Phone calls just to check in. Holidays without tension. But that family never existed. Not for me. They were never a home. They were a drain I mistook for roots. The other day, I was walking to my favorite coffee shop when I passed a kid, maybe 12 years old, on the sidewalk with his mom. He asked her if they could buy an extra sandwich for a guy sitting on the curb. She smiled and said, "Of course. It's good to help when you can. Not always. Not no matter what. Just when you can." That's what I never learned until too late. Helping doesn't mean sacrificing yourself. Love isn't measured by how much you bleed for someone. Sometimes saying no is the most loving thing you can do for yourself. So if you're reading this, and you've been the giver, the fixer, the bank, the strong one, let me say it plainly, you don't owe anyone your peace. You don't have to ruin yourself to make others whole. You're allowed to say no. You're allowed to stop. You're allowed to walk away. And when you do, you don't lose a family. You find yourself.